Hello folks, it's Scott with Dallas Paint Correction and Auto Detailing here in Dallas, Texas. Very cold Dallas, Texas. I hope you guys are staying warm. I know parts of the country are far worse than Dallas, but boy, we're getting a cold snap, right? Maybe Donald Trump pissed off Canada, I don't know, but it's cold. If you notice on the paint here, I've done a no-no. I've taken a black magic marker and I've drawn some lines on the paint. The reason for this video is going to be about critical thinking. It's going to be about, should you wash your car in straight lines versus washing in circular patterns? The answer to should you wash your car in straight lines will always be yes. And that's because I know how the human eye works and I know how the human being works. It's very important. The name of my company is called Dallas Paint Correction. And I remove scratches, I make cars shiny and glossy, that's all fun. But I need to know, and I have to allow critical thinking to come into my experience when I'm dealing with scratches that are either straight in nature or circular in nature, and I'll tell you why. I happened to watch a video the other night of a car enthusiast talking to a professional detailer. This professional detailer I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I admire him. The car enthusiast was washing his car in front of the professional detailer and said, "Hey, what's your opinion about straight line scratches and circular scratches? I've heard everybody say that straight line scratches are easier to remove than circular scratches." The professional detailer looked at him and said, "It doesn't really matter." Well, I'm sorry folks, this is not true, and I don't mean to burst anybody's bubble or piss them off, but critical thinking really has to come into play. The car enthusiast was washing his car in the moment. We have to understand how the human eye works. Let's say the car enthusiast had a piece of stone stuck in his wash media, his wash mitt. We never want this to happen. It's a horrible event when it happens, right? But I would rather you scratch the car in a straight line versus a circular pattern. The straight line scratch is let's say both scratches were superficial in nature. I'll give the professional detailer some wiggle room. If they weren't all that deep, they were superficial in nature, right on the surface, he is correct. I can remove a circular scratch or a straight line scratch just as well, just as easy, no big deal. But the car enthusiast was washing his car. This is probably going to be the moment where most contact is being made when we're touching our car. If he had a stone stuck in his wash media and he didn't create a superficial scratch, he created a deep scratch. The straight line scratch will always be easier to remove versus the circular one, and let me tell you why. If you notice the circular scratch, right, why is it so different and unique than the straight line? Well, one, duh, it's circular, Scott. Yes, but a circular scratch will typically have an intersecting point, an intersecting moment. What does that mean? That means the scratch is most likely going to be deeper at that place or at that point, more clear coat is going to be removed there. That becomes very problematic. That's why I want you to wash in straight lines, just in case you got some form of dirt, sand, pebble, whatever in your wash mitt. We also have to understand how the human eye works. Does your human eye actually see the scratch at first when you look at a scratch? The answer is no. The way our human eye works, we see the shadow that is created from the scratch, and then our eye becomes very hyper-focused and then can actually see the valley of the scratch. But at first you're seeing the shadow that the scratch creates. When you have a circular scratching pattern that can't be removed completely because it's too deep, it becomes problematic because more shadow can be casted off a circular scratch. Plus we've got an issue with the intersecting point, right? If you have a straight line scratch, it's really important to realize a straight line scratch that cannot be removed completely can only be seen at a certain height, in a certain light, and at a certain angle. A circular scratch is not as forgiving. It will be seen in just about any angle, just about any light, and just about at any height. That's why it's more problematic. I'd rather you have a straight line scratch than a circular scratch. Let's say that neither one of these can be completely removed, I can diminish the straight line scratch far greater than I can a circular scratch, because I can play a trick on your eye a little bit. I can diminish the straight line scratch because I already know the straight line scratch is harder to see in certain heights, certain angles, and in certain light. So if I can diminish both of them, I'm going to have a higher probability of hiding this from your human eye than I can a circular scratch. Folks, it's very important critical thinking comes into our experience. We're here in 2018, and some people think that the earth is flat once again. I don't know how this happens, or perhaps it's from lack of critical thinking. But washing your car in straight lines is very important. No, you're not. You know, when we have swirls on the paint, what you're actually seeing is scratches that are kind of crossing each other. They're very superficial in nature, but they look round in nature because we're using the sun, which is round, and it kind of plays a scientific trick on our eye. It's like an illusion. They're not really swirls. They're straight in nature. But when you have deep scratches, I'd rather you have a straight line scratch that's deep versus a circular one. The circular one is going to cast more shadow. It's going to have an intersecting point where it's too deep to completely remove it all. Just becomes much more problematic, a circular scratch versus a straight line scratch. I hope that makes sense. Allow critical thinking to prevail in 2018. I love you all. Wash your car in straight lines just in case. You know, it became unfortunate, you got a stone in your wash mitt. A straight line scratch is going to be easier to diminish if I can't remove it completely versus a circular scratch. You already can't, we've already got the advantage of knowing that a straight line scratch can only be seen in certain heights, certain lights, and at certain angles. If I can diminish it even more but not completely remove it, I can take that experience and kind of make it smaller and smaller for you. I can't do that with a circular scratch. I love you all. Talk to you soon.